Welcome back, my favorite gamers and developers. So, one thing about Fantasy Grounds is I've never really liked the note page. I'm certain that it works for some people, and I feel that the developers had a good reason for why they made it the way they did, but it unfortunately just doesn't work for my kind of games. Up here, they have a little a little area for description. Then they have a lot of lines for appearance, and then just not enough lines for notes. So I made a little bit of change, and this is what I came up with. So on the notes page, we have an area for character description, and I'm going to come back to this in a little bit. We have a spot for character concept, flaw, and secrets, and a spot for question 1 and question 2. Probably when I actually make this into production, these will become strings, so you can type in whatever kind of question you want. So anybody who's using this rule set will be able to come up with their own custom questions. This also allows for multi-line support, so as you type and it gets really long, there will always still be enough room for it to fit. It allows you to even scroll in this area. The next part that I created was languages. So languages, I made this as a drop down. And the reason why I changed it from just a string entry to a drop down is because if the text that's here does not match the text that's here exactly, it won't work. So when the GM comes in and creates the languages, they put them into the options page. If the player has a different language than what is offered, the GM can come in here, type it in, and then when the player goes to select, they can go ahead and pick the new language. The last part that I added was character notes. This allows the character to click on the note and type in their notes about what happened that game. If some players like to store their notes differently than other players. Some like to do it per game, some like to do it per event that's happening. If you're running a sandbox campaign and you have 3 storylines that are going on at the same time, players might want to pull open their storyline and add notes to what's going on in that instance. So, all of that, Fantasy Grounds is not the only cool tool I use. I have a few apps that I use when I run games online, one of them being Scabard. Scabard is a really good campaign manager, and I use this for keeping all my characters, my places, my events, and my game history alive on some web page that all players can go and access at any time. Another tool that I use is SyrinScape, and I use this for all the ambient noises, and this way I can have sounds happening in the background while we play. But now I want these to work with Fantasy Grounds, and sure, I could just keep them on the side and click and use them there, but I wanted to create this container called links. So in links, what this is a way to have URLs work inside Fantasy Grounds. So this way, this character can add their character description from Scabard. And so what I would do is I would grab the address, I would come in here, and I know it's not technically for this character, but we'll use it. And in the URL, I will paste the link. I hit create link, and it creates the link over here in the chat window. The reason why I do it over here in the chat window is because this is I think it's a security flaw or a security feature with Fantasy Grounds. They don't have links happening outside the chat window or URL links happening outside the chat window, and there's no good way of moving it around. If anybody discovers a way, please tell me and I'll upgrade this to allow that to work. Once the link is created though, you can drag and drop it, and so it's stored in here. So now you have it at a simple click instead of having to type in the URL again, create the link. And then what a player could do is drag and drop this right here onto the character. And I pop up this little text to basically inform the user. At this time, Fantasy Grounds does not allow us to move links, so you have to move this one manually. So you'll have to drag and drop it. I missed. That's a thing I need to fix. Drag and drop it right here. Once that's done, now the player, when they are ready to see their character, they click on the link, boom, pulls up their character. You can also create links from SyrinScape. So in SyrinScape, if I want to take a sound, I click on the little link, I create a link, and we're going to call this SyrinScape, paste in the URL, create the link, drop it right here, and then I can take a map and I can add this noise right here on this map. So when the players get to the right spot, you can trigger that noise. So how did I do this? Ruleset Wizard. It made it super easy. First, I want to say I get nothing for promoting Ruleset Wizard. I just love the product, and I really want others to love it too. Psycholicks, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, is the developer, and from what I understand, he's developing this as a hobby. With how the application is right now, 60-ish American dollars is more than worth it. Everything I've talked about is in the links below, so please go check it out. Here again is my project, and again, you can grab it from the links down below. The first thing I've added was this link manager. This is needed to be able to create the sidebar links. If you watch the Ruleset Wizard's tutorial videos, you will see more how to do this, and he goes through step by step on how to create a sidebar container. I then created a link sheet, and on here I have just a few simple things. The link sheet background itself, I used the frame of reference page, and I added just this simple code that basically handles the locking. And after that, I just added a header, which is just a sub window, the close button, which is a very standard, simple button to make. Just make sure you name it close, and the content sub window. The header is just simply a link, name, and these two buttons here are for locking. You need both a lock icon and a lock button, but the tutorial videos help explain that a little bit better. My link sheet, I have a link description, which is basically just a string field to type in what this is and why you created it. This is your URL link. The button will create the link, and it has a little bit of code in here. And basically all it's doing is I'm collecting some data, and then I create a message which creates the link. And then I created a spot here for you to drag and drop the link over to, and a clear button that wipes it out. Once it gets in production, I might get rid of the clear button. This is more for me to debug and test. My notes page is simply two sub windows, one for the character description and one for the background information. The languages is just a window list, and the character notes is also just a window list with a few pieces of information that allows me to utilize notes. My character description info, back here on my character description, I do have a little bit of code, and I'll step through this real quick. This is so once I drop data up there, I grab the node of what I dropped, and I don't need that debug anymore. Once I grab the node of what I drop, I then get the class of what it is. I check to make sure it's a link, and as long as it's a link, I will grab the path from it. I get the name of the object, and I set the path and the name, and then I create the message. Again, if you want to dig a little bit deeper into that, you can always get my file and scroll through it yourself. And also, if you do have any questions, I'll be happy to answer anything that comes up if I can. So this is the character description info. This is a link field to hold the link to the link containers. This is the URL link. This is where the name goes. And I have another clear button here, and this was mostly set for debugging purposes, so that'll probably go once I actually put it into production. My backstory is just some labels and some strings that have the can grow property set. Character language is just simply a drop down. Character notes detail is just the name and the link to the note. And then I added a few strings to reference. Again, this is in case anybody wants to take what I did and convert it into another language. So as you can see, adding these features is pretty straightforward and easy. But I don't want to kid you. I spent some time on this. I wrote a lot of debugs. I failed a lot. A lot. I tried everything in my heart to get that link to move into the character description area, and it turns out that it just couldn't. So there was many nights, because I'm only doing about, I don't know, anywhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours at most of work on it, and of me just trying to get that to work. And I couldn't. But then I had to jump on the forums, I asked for some help, and the people at Fantasy Grounds are extremely helpful in these sorts of situations, and somebody jumped on there and gave me some advice that made it work. So you will run into these problems as well, but these help you learn the system better. And I've noticed that some of the issues that I'm running into now, I'm able to use what I learned previously on things like the links page to help get me forward. But what I can say is that I didn't have to deal with XML, and this was made 100 times easier because of Ruleset Wizard. And I hope you have the same experience. But anyways, this is the new character notes section and links. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, keep gaming and keep developing.